In the skies over ancient Arabia, the Ababil birds protected holy places with their power to throw stones from above. These small but mighty creatures first appeared in Islamic tradition as guardians of Mecca, where they stopped an army that tried to attack the sacred Kaaba, a holy building where people went to pray. The Ababil showed that even the smallest beings could defeat the strongest enemies when they worked together. The Ababil looked like swallows but flew in huge groups that could block out the sun. Each bird carried 3 small rocks, one in its beak and one in each claw. Their feathers were dark like storm clouds, and their eyes glowed with an inner fire that helped them spot enemies from far away. The most famous story of the Ababil tells how they saved Mecca from King Abraha and his war elephants. When the king's army came to destroy the Kaaba, thousands of Ababil appeared in the sky. The birds dropped their stones with perfect aim, and each stone struck true. The mighty army ran away in fear, leaving the holy city safe. People in Arabia told stories about the Ababil to remind themselves that help could come from unexpected places. Parents taught their children that just as the tiny birds beat a huge army, small actions done together could solve big problems. Travelers felt safer knowing these flying guardians watched over sacred spaces. Adarna, a magical bird from the thick jungles of the Philippines, held power over both healing and harm through its enchanted song. This creature of light and music could cure any illness with its beautiful voice, but would turn unwary listeners to stone if they fell asleep during its performance. Kings and princes sought the Adarna because its singing could wake sleeping kingdoms and heal dying rulers. The Adarna shone with all the colors of precious gems, changing its feathers 7 times while it sang its 7 songs. Its eyes sparkled like diamonds in the dark, and its tail flowed like a river of silk behind it. The bird perched only in a special tree that grew golden fruit, making it even harder to find. Prince Juan, the youngest of 3 royal brothers, made the bravest attempt to catch the Adarna. He fought sleep through all 7 songs by pressing a special leaf with thorns against his skin. When the bird finished singing, Juan caught it with a golden net while his brothers lay turned to stone below the tree. People in the Philippines told the story of the Adarna to teach their children about staying awake to life's challenges. They believed the bird's 7 songs stood for the 7 trials everyone must face to reach their goals. Hunters and healers both respected the Adarna's power, knowing it could either save or doom them based on their own strength of will. Miners in Chile's Atacama Desert told stories of the Alicanto, a magical bird that fed on gold and silver. This creature glowed with the color of its last meal, golden or silvery light shining from its wings as it walked along rocky paths. People who spotted an Alicanto believed it could lead them to precious metal deposits, making it both a blessing and a curse to those who searched for riches. The Alicanto looked like a large night bird with metal-sheened feathers that sparkled even in darkness. Its wings seemed too heavy for flight, forcing it to walk everywhere it went. The bird's eyes shone like polished coins, and its strong beak could crack through solid rock to reach the metals it craved. Legend says a miner once followed an Alicanto through twisting caves, hoping to find gold. The bird noticed him and led him deeper and deeper underground, its wings growing brighter with each step. Just as the miner thought he saw gold ahead, the Alicanto vanished, leaving him lost in the pitch-black tunnels. He wandered for days before finding his way out, learning the hard way that the bird punished greed. The Alicanto shaped how miners worked, teaching them to respect the desert's treasures rather than chase after quick riches. Parents warned children never to follow strange lights in the desert, while seasoned miners claimed that only those with pure hearts could safely watch the bird feed. Some miners left small pieces of gold or silver outside cave entrances as gifts, hoping the Alicanto would bless their work instead of leading them astray. Soaring between our world and the spirit realm flies the Alkonost, a magical creature from Slavic lands. Her song holds such beauty that anyone who hears it forgets all their troubles and wishes for nothing else in life. People both yearned to hear her voice and feared its power to make them forget their loved ones forever. The Alkonost appears as a great bird with the head and upper body of a lovely woman. Her feathers shine with the colors of dawn, while her human features glow with an unearthly beauty. Like her sister bird, the Siren, she rules over the space between earth and sky, bringing both joy and danger to those who meet her. Once each year, on the holy day of the apple feast, the Alkonost visits the orchards of the world. She shakes magical dew from her wings onto the fruit trees below. Any apple touched by this dew gains the power to heal the sick and wounded. Russian villagers watched their apple orchards with care during feast days, hoping to catch a glimpse of the Alkonost. They believed the morning dew on apples held special healing powers, and mothers would gather fruit at dawn to keep their families healthy through the long winter months. Mysterious and rare, the golden Anqa bird makes its home at the edge of the world where the sun sets. This mighty creature lives for 1,700 years and appears only once in many lifetimes. People both feared and respected the Anqa for its great wisdom, gained from watching the world through countless ages. The Anqa stands out with its long, graceful neck, human-like face, and 8 powerful wings that shimmer with every color imaginable. Its feathers hold a touch of every living creature's beauty, while its neck glows with a special whiteness that marks it as magical. Though as big as a giant, it moves with the grace of a dancer through the sky. Old stories tell that the Anqa began life as a perfect creation, blessed with beauty and wisdom beyond measure. Yet its great power became too much, and it turned into a danger to the world. The Anqa then vanished to Mount Kaf, a distant peak at the edge of the world, where it now lives alone and shares wisdom only with those worthy enough to find it. Arabian travelers watched the sunset with hope of catching a glimpse of this legendary bird. They believed the Anqa could teach great wisdom to those pure of heart, so they told tales of its beauty and power to remind people that true wisdom comes to those who wait patiently and live righteously. Storm clouds gathered over ancient Mesopotamia when Anzû spread its mighty wings. Born from pure waters and earth itself, this powerful spirit brought thunder and rain to the lands below. People both feared and respected Anzû as a force of nature that could either nourish their crops or destroy them with storms. Like a living thundercloud, Anzû took the shape of a massive black bird that could breathe both fire and water. Some stories painted it as an eagle with the fierce head of a lion, connecting its image to the mighty roar of thunder. Its huge form cast dark shadows across the mountains where it made its home. The most famous tale tells how Anzû stole a magical tablet that controlled the fate of all things. This tablet belonged to Enlil, the king of the gods. Anzû hid it high in the mountains, and though all the gods feared the mighty storm bird, they had to fight it to bring order back to the world. Farmers and traders watched the skies for signs of Anzû's presence in every storm. They built temples with carvings of the great bird to show their respect, hoping to gain its favor for good rains. Even today, ancient stone walls still show images of Anzû holding deer in its claws or standing proud with its lion's head raised to the sky. Lurking in the corners of birdwatchers' imaginations lived the bare-fronted Hoodwink, a master of almost being seen. This clever bird could explain every blurry photo and distant sighting that puzzled bird lovers. People spent countless hours trying to spot this creature that seemed to vanish just as they raised their cameras. The Hoodwink looked like a strange mix of other birds, with the head of a crow, body of a shorebird, and webbed feet for swimming. Its most striking feature was its bare front, which gleamed like wax in the sunlight. The bird moved so fast that people could only catch the quickest glimpse before it zipped away into the distance. A famous bird expert named Michael John wrote about this amazing species in 1950. It came from an ancient family of birds that had fooled people for thousands of years. Soon, excited birdwatchers began reporting sightings of the Hoodwink everywhere they went, each one sure they had almost caught it on film. The Royal Scottish Museum finally put the Hoodwink on display on April Fool's Day, 1975. Visitors saw a stuffed bird made from parts of other birds, along with a collection of blurry photos showing birds flying away. The exhibit revealed the truth. The Hoodwink was a playful joke that taught people to laugh at their own eager mistakes while searching for rare birds. The mountain-dwelling Basan haunts the bamboo groves of ancient Japan's Iyo province. This ghostly bird breathes an otherworldly blue flame that gives no heat, making it both fascinating and unsettling to villagers who spot its glow in the dark. Local people tell stories of its sudden appearances near their homes, where it searches through the remains of burned-out fires. This creature stands as tall as a large turkey, with feathers that shimmer like flames in the moonlight. Its most striking features are its bright red comb and its dragon-like breath, which flows visible but cold from its beak. When it moves, its wings make a distinct rustling sound that gives the bird its name, basa basa. The most famous tale of the basin tells of nighttime visitors who hear its wing beats outside their homes. Those who dare to look find only empty darkness, as the bird vanishes the moment human eyes fall upon it. This power to disappear adds to its mystery and keeps most villagers safely indoors after dark. The basin shapes how mountain people live their daily lives, especially after sunset. Families carefully clean up their cooking fires and bring all burnable items inside, knowing the firebird might visit. Some say hearing the basa basa sound brings good luck, while others warn it marks the start of strange events in the village. The Caladrius lived in royal homes of ancient Rome, where it used its power to heal the sick. This pure white bird could draw illness from people into its own body, then fly toward the sun to burn away the disease. Kings kept these birds because they could also tell if a sick person would live or die by looking at their face. The Caladrius looks like a spotless white dove or water bird without a single dark feather on its body. Its eyes show a deep wisdom, as if it can see into the heart of illness itself. People say it moves with gentle grace, like flowing water, when it approaches the sick. The most famous story tells of how the bird chooses who to heal. When brought to a sick person, the Caladrius looks deep into their eyes. If it turns away, the person will die. If it keeps looking, it takes their sickness into itself and flies up toward the sun, saving their life. This bird shaped how people thought about healing and hope. Families rushed to the king's house when loved ones fell ill, begging to know what the Caladrius would see in their faces. The bird's choice became so trusted that doctors would not treat patients the Caladrius refused to face. Mighty Chalkydri guard the path of the sun across ancient skies. These giant flying creatures blend features of many beasts and shine with rainbow colors. People both feared and praised them as keepers of daylight, bringing warmth and morning dew to earth. Each Chalkydri stands 900 measures tall, combining parts of different animals into one awesome form. They have crocodile heads, lion feet and tails, and 12 powerful wings. Their bodies shine with purple and rainbow hues that catch the light as they soar through the heavens. The Chalkydri begin each day with a mighty song that wakes all birds on earth. As the sun rises, they spread their many wings and sing together, telling every creature it is time to welcome the new morning. Their music flows down from the sky like golden light. These beings changed how people saw the rising sun and daily life. Farmers listened for the morning bird songs that showed the Chalkydri had begun their work above. Travelers planned their paths by the warmth and dew these creatures spread across the land. Tall as a child, the Chickcharney haunts the forests of Andros Island in the Bahamas. This strange mix of owl and human brings good luck to those who treat it well, but curses those who mock its odd looks. People who travel through its forest home show it deep respect, fearing its power to shape their future. The Chickcharney looks like no other creature on Earth. It has the round face and feathers of an owl, but walks on long, human-like legs. Its wings end in sharp claws, and its 3-foot-tall body mixes both fur and feathers in ways that puzzle all who see it. Stories tell of the Chickcharney testing travelers who pass through its woods. Those who speak kindly to it or offer small gifts find their lives filled with good fortune. But those who laugh or point at its strange form face years of bad luck, and some never return from the forest at all. Local people changed how they move through the forest because of this creature. They teach their children to be kind to anything strange they might meet among the trees. Some say they can spot where Chickcharneys live by looking for groups of pine trees pulled together to make nests. Arabian traders told tales of giant birds that built nests from precious cinnamon sticks. These massive creatures made their homes on sheer cliffs and brought back cinnamon from distant unknown lands. People prized these nests as their main source of the valuable spice. The cinnamon bird stood taller than 3 men, with wings strong enough to carry whole trees. Its huge claws could grip both heavy meat and delicate spice sticks. Stories say it looked like a normal bird made giant, with feathers the rich brown color of its favorite building material. Traders learned to trick these birds to get their cinnamon. They left large pieces of meat near the cliffs where the birds nested. When the birds tried to add the heavy meat to their nests, the whole structure would break and fall. The traders then collected the scattered cinnamon sticks from the ground. The story of the cinnamon bird changed how people traded. Merchants used the tale to explain the high cost of cinnamon and why it took so long to get more. Some people began to leave meat offerings near cliff edges, hoping to find fallen spices nearby. Dragons soared through the skies of China, bringing rain and good fortune to the land below. These mighty beings controlled the weather and kept nature in balance, earning deep respect from everyone who lived there. Unlike the fierce dragons of other lands, Chinese dragons helped humans who showed them proper honor and care. The Chinese dragon looked different from what many people think of as a dragon today. It had the whiskers of a catfish, the scales of a carpfish, the horns of a deer, and the claws of an eagle. Its long, snake-like body could stretch as far as 100 feet, letting it twist through clouds as easily as swimming through water. The dragon could also change its size at will, growing as big as a mountain or as small as a silk thread. The Jade Emperor once chose the 4 dragon kings to make rain for his realm. The dragons worked hard, filling rivers and helping crops grow across China. But one year, the Jade Emperor told them to hold back the rain. When they saw farmers dying from lack of water, the dragons disobeyed and made rain anyway. The angry Jade Emperor locked them under 4 mountains as punishment for going against his orders. People built temples to honor dragons and prayed to them in times of drought. Farmers watched the skies for dragons riding storm clouds, knowing rain would soon follow. The dragon became such an important symbol that only the emperor could wear its image, and people still say they are descendants of the dragon to show their Chinese heritage. The best dragons earned the right to carry temples on their backs or guard heavenly places for the Jade Emperor. These special dragons gained their positions through good deeds and wisdom rather than fighting or showing off their strength. They taught people that true power comes from helping others, not from making them afraid. Sacred birds brought peace and good fortune to ancient China, where they appeared only in times of perfect harmony. The Fenghuang glowed with inner fire and carried great wisdom, making it a sign that a good ruler sat on the throne. People watched the skies hoping to spot this rare and blessed creature. The Fenghuang combined the most beautiful parts of many birds into one magical being. Its head looked like a pheasant, while its body showed the grace of a crane. Peacock-like tail feathers trailed behind it, and its legs matched a rooster's strong feet. The bird's feathers shone with 5 holy colors: black, white, red, green, and yellow. One famous tale tells how a Fenghuang landed in the garden of Emperor Huangdi, marking the start of China's golden age. The magical bird shared songs of wisdom with the emperor, teaching him how to rule with kindness and fairness. These lessons helped create peace throughout the land, and crops grew in plenty while the bird stayed near. People carved images of the Fenghuang on buildings and art to bring good luck. Women wore its picture to show their gentle power, as the bird became known as the queen of all winged creatures. Unlike fierce dragons, the Fenghuang won hearts through beauty and wisdom rather than strength. The Fenghuang taught that true power comes from bringing people together in harmony. When the bird appeared, even animals that normally fought would live in peace. Rulers learned to copy this example, leading their people with gentle wisdom instead of force. Mighty birds called Gagana ruled the skies above old Indonesia, reaching down to snatch whales from the sea. These giant hunters could lift the largest sea creatures into the air as easily as a normal bird catches fish. Sailors watched the waters nervously, knowing both ship and crew might vanish in the grip of a Gagana's mighty claws. Like living warships, Gagana stretched longer than 10 large boats placed end to end. Their wings spread wide enough to block out the sun, casting entire villages into shadow. Sharp hooks lined their beaks, perfect for gripping slippery whales, while their feathers shone with the deep blue-black color of stormy seas. The most famous story tells of a Gagana that caught a whale near a fishing village. As the bird flew overhead with its catch, drops of whale blood fell into the village well. The people found their water had turned salty, and fish began swimming in the well where only fresh water had been before. This showed how the Gagana could change the very nature of things it touched. People believed Gagana birds shaped the islands of Indonesia by dropping whales that became mountains. Fishermen made offerings to the Gagana before sailing, hoping to stay safe from its hunting. Some brave sailors followed the birds to find good fishing spots, knowing whales and Gagana hunted in the same waters. The Gagana taught people to respect the power of nature. Though fierce hunters, they kept balance in the world by making sure no creature, not even the greatest whales, grew too strong or too many. Villages that honored the Gagana found good fortune in their fishing, while those who ignored its power often lost ships to the waves. Mysterious birdwomen called Gamayun lived in the sacred trees of ancient Russia, sharing wisdom through their beautiful songs. These magical beings knew all things past, present, and future, making them sought after by those seeking answers to life's great questions. People who heard a Gamayun song gained deep knowledge, but few could understand the full meaning of their complex messages. The Gamayun had the head and chest of a woman with flowing hair crowned by feathers, while the rest of their body matched that of a large bird. Their wings shimmered with bright colors like sunlight on water, and their eyes glowed with inner wisdom. They perched in the highest branches of old oak trees, where normal birds would not dare to nest. One tale tells of a lost prince who heard a Gamayun's song warning of great danger to his kingdom. Though he could not grasp all the birdwoman's words, he understood enough to return home quickly. He found his castle under attack and saved his people, proving the Gamayun's power to see coming events. Village wise women left food offerings for the Gamayun, hoping to gain some of their knowledge. Parents told children to listen carefully when birds sang, saying a Gamayun might share secrets among normal bird calls. Some people wrote down what they thought were Gamayun songs, creating books of wisdom for future times. The Gamayun showed that knowledge comes in many forms, not just human speech. Their songs reminded people that nature itself holds deep wisdom, teaching those who learn to listen well. Even today, Russians say that morning bird songs carry special messages for those who wake early to hear them. The Gandabherunda, a mighty two-headed eagle, soared through the ancient skies of southern India. This royal bird held the power to fight demons and protect kingdoms with its massive strength. Kings and warriors sought its blessing, believing it brought them the courage of two eagles in one powerful body. The bird stood as tall as 3 men and spread its wings wider than the largest palace gates. Each of its heads bore a sharp golden beak and eyes that shone like bright stars. The beast's body showed off feathers in deep blue and black, while its legs ended in claws that could crush stone. When it flew, the sound of its wings filled the air like rolling thunder. Their legends speak of the time the Gandabherunda fought a mighty battle with a demon who took the form of an elephant. The demon had been destroying villages and temples across the land. The great bird swooped down from the clouds, grabbed the demon with both beaks, and lifted it high into the sky. After a fierce fight, the Gandabherunda threw the demon into the sea, saving the kingdom from its evil. The image of the Gandabherunda became a royal seal for many Indian kings, who carved it on their thrones and stamps. Common people drew its picture above their doors to guard their homes from harm. Even today, the Indian state of Karnataka uses the Gandabherunda as its official symbol, showing how this magical bird still protects and inspires people. Mighty Garuda ruled the skies as king of all birds in ancient Hindu stories. This divine eagle served as the loyal mount of Vishnu, one of the main gods who protected the world. People looked up to Garuda because he fought against evil snakes called Nagas and helped the gods keep order in the universe. The great bird stood as tall as a temple tower, with golden feathers that shone like the sun. His face showed human-like features, with a sharp eagle's beak and eyes that glowed red with power. 4 massive wings spread from his shoulders, each one big enough to cause storms when he flew. His strong arms bore the strength of 10 elephants, while his legs ended in eagle's talons that could tear through any enemy. Once, Garuda's mother became a slave to evil snakes who tricked her. To free her, Garuda had to steal a pot of magic nectar from the gods. He flew past all their weapons, broke through their strongest shields, and took the nectar. But instead of keeping it, Garuda made a deal with Vishnu. He gave back the nectar and became Vishnu's faithful friend and carrier through the skies. Travelers and traders prayed to Garuda for safe journeys, since he watched over all who moved between earth and heaven. Artists carved his image on temples and paintings, showing him fighting snakes or carrying Vishnu on his back. Some people wore small Garuda charms to keep snakes away from their homes, while others sang songs about his great deeds during festivals. Griffins guarded their treasures in the Rocky Mountains between ancient Greece and the distant eastern lands. These mighty beasts combined the fierce hunting skills of an eagle with a lion's raw power. Kings and rulers sought griffins as symbols of strength, while gold hunters feared meeting them in the wildlands where precious metals lay hidden. The creature stood as tall as 2 horses, with the front half of a giant eagle and the back half of a powerful lion. Its curved beak could snap a sword in half, while its wings spread wider than a war chariot. Golden feathers covered its eagle chest and head, flowing into tawny fur along its lion body and legs, ending in claws sharp enough to dig through solid rock. Tales tell of a bold group of gold seekers who tried to steal from a griffin's nest high in the mountains. The griffin swooped down from above, its wings casting dark shadows over the thieves. With one strike of its claws, it scattered the men's tools across the rocks. The beast then chased them far from its territory, showing both its fierce nature and its wisdom in choosing not to kill them. People carved griffin statues to stand guard at temple doors and palace gates. Rich traders painted griffins on their ships to watch over their goods at sea. Common folk told stories about griffins to teach their children about protecting what they valued and standing strong against those who would take it. Parents warned young treasure hunters that griffins still watched over mountains rich with gold and gems. Poets wrote songs about their noble hearts, since griffins stayed faithful to their mates for life and never stole from others, only guarded what was theirs. The Hakawai ruled the night skies of New Zealand, striking fear into both birds and humans with its terrifying sound. This giant bird could make 2 different calls, a normal bird cry and a mysterious noise that sounded like a rushing wind mixed with harsh metal scraping. The Maori people believed the Hakawai watched over the spirit world and guarded the boundary between life and death. The creature stood as tall as 3 grown men, with feathers dark as midnight and eyes that glowed like stars. Its wings spread wider than the longest war canoe, and its beak curved sharp as a fishhook. The Hakawai's feet bore claws that could tear through tree trunks, while its neck moved like a snake when tracking prey. On stormy nights, the Hakawai would swoop down from mountain peaks to hunt other birds, especially those who broke sacred laws. The great bird's second cry, called the Hakawai call, came only at night and sounded so awful that birds would fall from the sky in fear. Those who lived to tell about it said the sound began like distant thunder before turning into a screech that shook the earth. The Maori people planned their night travels carefully to avoid the Hakawai's hunting grounds. Parents taught children to listen for its warning cry and find shelter quickly. Tribes used the bird's image to warn people about breaking rules, saying it would find those who did wrong. Some brave warriors earned the title Eyes of the Hakawai for their skill at watching over their people, just as the great bird watched from above. Harpies swooped through the stormy skies of ancient Greece, serving the gods as cruel punishers of crime. These female bird monsters stole food from their victims and spread foul smells wherever they flew. People feared them as messengers of fate who brought hunger, pain, and bad luck to those who angered the gods. Each harpy had the face of an ugly woman with long, stringy hair that whipped in the wind. Their bodies bore dirty feathers the color of storm clouds, while their wings stretched as wide as fishing boats. Sharp claws grew from their bird feet, ready to snatch up wrongdoers or tear apart their meals. When they shrieked, their voices sounded like metal scraping on stone. The most famous story tells how the Harpies tormented a blind king named Phineas. The god Zeus had ordered them to steal every meal the king tried to eat because he had told people about the god's secret plans. Whenever food appeared on Phineas's table, the Harpies would swoop down, grab it with their claws, and spoil whatever they couldn't carry away. They kept this up until heroes called the Argonauts drove them away. Greek families used Harpy stories to warn children about lying and breaking promises. Sailors carved Harpy faces on their ships to show they sailed with honest hearts. When someone suffered from bad luck that seemed to never end, people said the Harpies must be following them. Some even left small meals outside their homes, hoping to keep the bird women away. Magical hippogriffs roamed the wild spaces of medieval Europe, born from the rare union of a griffin and a mare. These noble creatures could fly faster than the wind and run as swift as racing horses across the ground. Knights and wizards prized them as mounts because hippogriffs only allowed the pure of heart to ride on their backs. The creature combined the front half of an eagle with the back half of a horse in perfect balance. Its head bore a sharp eagle's beak and fierce golden eyes, while eagle feathers covered its chest and front legs. Behind its wings, the feathers changed to a horse's smooth coat, leading to strong back legs with hooves that sparked when they struck the ground. When it moved, the hippogriff showed the grace of both its parent creatures. Legend tells of a brave knight who needed to rescue a princess from a tower guarded by dragons. The knight found a hippogriff and earned its trust by bowing low and showing respect. Together they soared above the dragon's flames, swooped down to the tower window, and carried the princess to safety. The hippogriff then stayed with the knight as a faithful friend, helping him protect the kingdom. People believed seeing a hippogriff brought good luck in love and travel. Artists painted their pictures on shields and banners to show honor and faith. Mothers told their children that hippogriffs watched over lost travelers, guiding them home with gentle wing beats that sounded like distant thunder. Kings built special stables with open roofs, hoping to attract hippogriffs as noble steeds. They decorated these airy spaces with sweet-smelling flowers and soft hay, since hippogriffs loved comfort and beauty as much as they loved freedom. The Hudhud, a sacred bird of the Philippines, soars through mountains and deep forests as a messenger between humans and the spirit world. This special bird helps people read signs in nature and knows when rain will come. People in mountain villages see the Hudhud as wise and magical because it can talk to both the living and the dead. The bird stands as tall as a child's arm and wears bright colors like a king. Its head carries a crown of golden feathers that shine in the sunlight. Black and white stripes run down its wings, and when it flies, the pattern looks like moving shadows on the ground. Long ago, a poor farmer lost his way in the forest during a great storm. The Hudhud appeared and sang a song that guided him home through the darkness. The bird led him past dangerous cliffs and wild animals, keeping him safe until he saw his village lights. Mountain people watch for the Hudhud when they need to plant crops or start a journey. They believe its morning call brings good luck, while its evening song warns of coming dangers. Farmers wait to hear its special cry before they begin planting rice, trusting the bird knows when the rains will start. Two ravens named Huginn and Muninn served Odin, the king of Norse gods. These special birds flew across the 9 worlds each day to bring news back to their master. Their names showed their jobs. Huginn means thought, and Muninn means memory in the Old Norse language. Together they helped Odin know everything that happened in all the worlds. The ravens looked like normal black birds, but their eyes glowed with wisdom no animal could match. Each bird stood as tall as a child's arm and had feathers that shone like polished metal in the sun. They could speak in human words when they chose, though they saved their speech for Odin's ears alone. Every morning at dawn, the ravens left their perches on Odin's throne to begin their daily flight. They soared over battlefields and villages, through deep forests and across stormy seas. At night, they returned to whisper their findings in Odin's ears while he sat in his great hall of Valhalla. The Norse people watched for these ravens with both hope and fear. Sailors and traders believed seeing Huginn and Muninn meant Odin watched over their journey. Warriors thought a visit from the ravens meant they would soon die bravely in battle and join Odin's chosen heroes in Valhalla. The ravens grew so important to Odin that each morning he worried they might not return from their flight. He feared losing Muninn most of all, since without memory, even a god could forget who he was. The birds always came back, but Odin's worry showed how much he needed both thought and memory to rule wisely. The Jingwei lived in ancient China's mountains and seas, transforming from a princess into a mighty bird after drowning in the eastern waters. This special bird carried stones and wood in its beak, dropping them into the ocean day after day. People respected Jingwei for its endless determination to fill up the sea that had taken its human life. The bird had striking crimson feathers that shone like fire in the sunlight, with white stripes running down its wings like lightning streaks. Its beak was tough as iron, shaped perfectly for picking up pebbles and tree branches. Jingwei's call sounded like its own name, Jingwei, Jingwei, echoing across the waves as it flew. Legend tells how Jingwei was once Emperor Yan's youngest daughter, Nuwa, who loved to play near the eastern sea. One stormy day, the huge waves pulled her into the deep water, and she never returned home. Instead of staying in the spirit world, she became the Jingwei bird, starting her endless work to fill the sea with mountains of stones. The story of Jingwei taught Chinese people about fighting against powerful forces, no matter how impossible the task seemed. Farmers facing floods, builders making great walls, and children tackling big challenges all found hope in Jingwei's story. The bird became a symbol of never giving up, even when others said your goal was too big to reach. The Kamaitachi haunted the snowy fields of northern Japan, moving faster than any human could see. This weasel-like spirit carried magical sickles that could slice through flesh without causing pain. Farmers and travelers respected these creatures not just for their deadly skills, but because they often worked in groups of 3. The first would knock down a person, the second would cut them, and the third would stop the bleeding. The creature stood no taller than a house cat, but had the fierce look of a battle-ready warrior. Its fur gleamed like polished metal in the moonlight, and sharp claws clicked against the ground as it ran. Most striking were its eyes, which glowed red like hot coals, and the curved blade it held in its paws, sharp enough to split a hair. One famous tale tells of a young farmer who met the Kamaitachi on his way home during a snowstorm. The spirit spun around him like a whirlwind, too quick to dodge. He felt himself lift off the ground, then came a sharp cut across his legs. Before he could cry out in pain, the third spirit had already treated his wounds. The farmer lived to tell his story, but the cuts left scars that never faded. The Kamaitachi shaped how people traveled through the countryside of Japan. Villagers wrapped scarves around their faces and wore thick clothes, not just for warmth, but as protection against the spirit's blades. Parents warned children never to walk alone during snowstorms, and travelers learned to listen for the sound of rushing wind that meant the Kamaitachi were near. Legends of the Kludde haunted the dark roads of Belgium, where this shape-shifting spirit hunted lonely travelers. The monster could change into any animal it wished, though it preferred the form of a black dog with wings. People feared meeting the Kludde on empty paths at night, as it would jump on their backs and force them to carry it until they collapsed from fear and tired muscles. The creature matched the size of a large dog when in its favorite form, with wings like those of a giant bat spread wide. Blue flames burned in its eyes, and chains dragged behind it, making an eerie sound as they scraped against the ground. Dark fur covered its body, and its teeth gleamed as sharp as daggers in the moonlight. One famous tale speaks of a farmer who met the Kludde while walking home late from the market. The spirit landed on the man's shoulders, growing heavier with each step. The clever farmer tricked the beast by walking toward a holy shrine, which made the Kludde leap away with a terrible howl, leaving behind only the sound of rattling chains. Belgian villagers warned their children never to walk alone after sunset when the Kludde liked to roam. Travelers carried blessed items and avoided shortcuts through the countryside at night. Some people hung iron chains by their doors, believing the sound would scare away the spirit that dragged its own chains behind it. The Longma roamed ancient China as a sacred creature blessed by heaven. This magical beast combined the swift power of a dragon with the gentle spirit of a horse, making it a symbol of good fortune and wisdom. Chinese rulers watched the skies hoping to spot a Longma, as its arrival meant their rule would bring peace and wealth to the land. The Longma stood as tall as 2 horses, with scales that shone like jade covering its horse-like body. Dragon horns curved from its noble head, while a flowing mane of golden fire rippled down its neck. When it walked, each hoof left prints that bloomed into rare plants, and its eyes glowed with the wisdom of 1,000 years. Legend tells of the first Longma, which burst from the Yellow River carrying a map of numbers on its back. This map showed the 8 basic signs that became the foundation of Chinese writing. A wise man copied these signs, giving the Chinese people their first written words and bringing knowledge to the world. Farmers prayed to see a Longma in their fields, believing its presence would make their crops grow tall and strong. Royal families kept paintings of the Longma in their homes to bring luck and painted its image on their children's clothes for protection. Even today, Chinese parents tell their children that studying hard will please the Longma, who rewards wisdom and learning. Among the stars of Philippine skies lived the Minokawa, a bird so huge it could swallow the moon and sun whole. This mighty creature brought both day and night by eating and spitting out the great lights in the sky. People watched the sky with fear. knowing the Minokawa could keep the sun or moon forever if it chose. The Minokawa's body stretched longer than 10 tall trees placed end to end. Its feathers shone like polished metal, and its eyes glowed as bright as fires. When it opened its beak, the inside looked darker than any cave, and its tongue felt hot like burning coals. The most famous story tells how the Minokawa once kept the sun in its belly for many days, leaving the world in darkness. A brave hero named Tautana shot the great bird with a magic arrow, making it spit the sun back into the sky. The hero's quick thinking saved all living things from dying in endless night. Filipino people planned their lives around the Minokawa's habits. Farmers watched for signs of the bird's shadow, which warned them of coming darkness. Families taught their children to be brave through stories of Tautana's cleverness against the mighty bird. Some people still say that solar eclipses happen when the Minokawa takes a bite of the sun. The Nachtkrapp hunted through German nights, swooping down to catch children who stayed out after dark. This giant black bird used its razor-sharp claws to snatch disobedient youngsters and carry them to its nest. Parents warned their children about the Nachtkrapp to keep them safe at home once the sun went down. Bigger than any normal bird, the Nachtkrapp had eyes that glowed red like hot coals in the dark. Its feathers were blacker than the darkest night, making it almost impossible to see until it was too late. When it spread its wings, they blocked out the stars, and its beak was long and curved like a sharp hook. One famous story tells of a young boy who ignored his mother's warnings and played in the village square at midnight. The Nachtkrapp grabbed him in its claws and flew him high above the town. Rather than eat the boy, the bird showed him all the dangers that lurked in the darkness below, then returned him home with a lesson learned. German families changed their daily habits because of the Nachtkrapp. Parents used the bird story to teach their children about night dangers like wolves, thieves, and getting lost in the dark. Children created games about racing home before the Nachtkrapp could catch them, and towns rang bells at sunset to warn everyone to head inside. The 9-headed bird soared through ancient China's skies, casting 9 different shadows on the ground below. Each of its heads could sing a different song at the same time, creating music that made whole armies stop and listen. People both loved and feared this mighty creature because it could either charm them with its voices or use them to drive listeners mad. The creature stood as tall as 3 men and had feathers that changed color like oil on water. Its 9 heads grew from long, twisting necks that moved like snakes, each crowned with a sharp golden beak. The bird's wings stretched wider than the biggest trees, and its tail sparkled with eyes that glowed like stars at night. The most famous tale tells of how the 9-headed bird saved a dried-up kingdom from dying of thirst. 8 of its heads sang together, pulling rain clouds from distant seas, while the 9th head shot lightning into the ground, creating new springs of fresh water. The grateful king offered the bird his crown, but it only took a single golden feather from the royal cloak as reward. The 9-headed bird shaped how Chinese people thought about music and harmony. Musicians tried to copy its songs, creating new kinds of instruments and ways of singing together. Parents told their children that if they listened carefully on quiet nights, they might hear the bird's 9 melodies floating on the wind, bringing good luck to those who caught all 9 tunes at once. The Oozlum bird lived in the wild places of Australia, far from human towns and cities. This odd creature flew in perfect circles that grew smaller and smaller until it vanished. People feared meeting an Oozlum bird because they believed its strange flight could make them so dizzy they would lose their way home forever. The Oozlum bird looked like a plump chicken with rainbow feathers that sparkled in sunlight. It had a short, curved beak shaped like a bottle opener, and its tail feathers grew in a spiral pattern. The bird stood as tall as a young child, and its wings made a sound like spinning wheels when it flew. According to bush tales, an Oozlum bird once caught sight of its own tail feathers and began chasing itself through the sky. Round and round it flew, faster and faster, drawing tighter circles in the air. The bird spun so quickly it drilled straight into the ground, leaving only a perfectly round hole and a few scattered feathers. Travelers in the Australian outback watched the skies carefully for signs of spinning rainbow feathers. They built special round shelters to confuse any Oozlum birds that might fly overhead, and they wore hats with eyes painted on the back to trick the birds into thinking they were being watched. Parents warned children never to spin in circles, fearing this might attract an Oozlum bird's attention. Ancient Greeks told stories of Pegasus, a magical horse with wings that soared through the skies above their cities and mountains. This pure white stallion sprang from the blood of a monster and became the trusted friend of heroes. Kings and warriors sought Pegasus as their mount, knowing his power could help them win great battles and reach places no normal horse could go. Pegasus combined the best parts of an eagle and a horse. His strong white wings stretched wider than two warships placed side by side, while his hooves shone like polished silver. When he flew, his mane and tail streamed behind him like banners made of clouds, and the beating of his wings sounded like distant thunder. The greatest story of Pegasus tells of his friendship with a hero named Bellerophon. Together they fought the Chimera, a terrible beast that breathed fire and had the head of a lion, body of a goat, and tail of a snake. Pegasus carried his rider high above the monster's flames, letting Bellerophon strike down with his spear to save nearby towns from destruction. People watched the skies hoping to see Pegasus fly overhead, believing his appearance brought good luck. Sailors used his star pattern to find their way across the seas at night, while poets said the places where his hooves touched earth created springs of water that gave special powers to those who drank from them. The Greeks made Pegasus their symbol of wisdom and fame, painting his image on their shields and carving it into temple walls. In ancient China, a mighty creature called the Peng soared through the skies, so large its wings looked like clouds spreading across the heavens. This remarkable being started life as a giant fish named Kun before changing into the world's largest bird. The Peng earned deep respect from Chinese people who saw it as a symbol of great achievement and the ability to reach beyond normal limits. The Peng's size went far beyond any normal bird, with its back as wide as a mountain and wings that stretched until they filled the entire sky. When it flew near the ocean, its massive form stirred the waters for thousands of miles around. Like a living storm cloud, the Peng rode the strongest winds up into the highest parts of the sky where no other creature could follow. The most famous story tells of the Peng's journey to the Lake of Heaven, a magical body of water in the far south. Small birds like doves and quails laughed at the Peng's great journey, saying they only needed to fly from tree to tree. But the Peng paid no attention to their mockery and flew onward, rising 90,000 lengths into the air on powerful summer winds that carried it beyond the limits of the known world. The Peng story taught Chinese people important lessons about seeing beyond their own small views of the world. Teachers and writers used the tale to show how limiting it could be to judge things only by what we know from our own experience. The giant bird became a favorite symbol in Chinese art and literature, representing the courage to seek greater heights and broader horizons. Flames burst from the sands of Egypt as the phoenix rose from its own ashes to live again. This magical bird held the power of endless rebirth, returning to life every 500 years in a burst of fire. Kings and priests watched the skies for the phoenix because its arrival meant a time of great change would begin. The phoenix stood as tall as a horse, with feathers that mixed the red of sunset and the gold of dawn. Its eyes glowed like burning coals, while its long tail flowed like liquid metal in the wind. When it spread its wings, the air around it shimmered with heat, and sparks fell like tiny stars. The most famous tale tells how the phoenix knew its death drew near and flew to a temple in the city of Heliopolis, the city of the sun. There it built a nest of sweet-smelling wood and spices, then sang one last song so beautiful that the sun god stopped to listen. The bird burst into flames as the song ended, but from the ashes a new phoenix rose, young and strong once more. People gathered at temples to leave gifts when they thought the phoenix might appear. Artists painted its picture on tomb walls to help the dead find new life, just as the phoenix did. Healers used feathers said to come from its nest to cure the sick, believing the bird's power to overcome death could help their patients live. The Qingniao soared through ancient China's skies as a messenger between heaven and earth. This sacred bird carried the power to control the sun itself, guiding its journey across the sky each day. People both feared and honored the Qingniao because it could bring either blessed warmth or deadly heat to their lands. The bird stood as tall as 3 people and glowed with brilliant blue-green feathers that shone like precious jade stones. Its long neck curved like a river, while its tail spread wide as a temple fan. When it flew, golden light leaked from beneath its wings, leaving trails of fire in the morning air. Legend tells how the King Niao saved the world when 10 suns appeared in the sky at once. These suns began to burn the earth, turning rivers to steam and crops to ash. The great bird flew up and gathered 9 of the suns in its beak, carrying them away to a secret place beyond the eastern sea, leaving only 1 sun to warm the world properly. Chinese farmers watched the skies each morning for signs of the Qingniao's flight, which told them when to plant their crops. Artists carved its image on temple walls and painted it on silk scrolls, believing these pictures would bring good weather. Mothers told their children that the bird's morning song drove away evil spirits, keeping their homes safe through the night. Majestic rainbirds ruled the desert skies of Native American lands, bringing life-giving storms with the beating of their wings. These powerful spirits could smell rain clouds hundreds of miles away and drove them toward dry lands that needed water. People saw these birds as messengers of hope, for their arrival meant the end of drought and the return of green plants to the earth. Each rainbird stood taller than 3 men, with feathers that shifted between deep blue and stormy gray like the colors of thunderclouds. Their wings stretched wider than the longest river, and their eyes flashed with lightning when they called out. Silver drops of water fell from their tail feathers as they flew, leaving trails of rain behind them. The most famous story tells of a time when the desert people faced their worst drought ever. As the last water hole dried up, a young girl sang a prayer song for 7 days and nights without stopping. Her faith touched the heart of a great rainbird, which flew down from its home in the spirit world. The creature gathered all the rain clouds from across the land and brought them together, saving the people with a mighty storm. Desert tribes watched the skies for rainbirds during dry seasons and sang special songs to call them. Medicine men and women kept sacred feathers said to come from these spirits, using them in ceremonies to bring rain to their crops. When storm clouds gathered, people said they could hear the beating of rainbird wings in the thunder, and they gave thanks for the gifts of water and life. The Rarog soared through the smoky skies of ancient Slavic lands as a fire spirit that could change its shape at will. This mighty being took the form of a blazing falcon during the day and turned into a whirlwind of flame at night. People both feared and honored the Rarog, as it could either warm their homes or burn their villages to ash, depending on how they treated it. The creature stood as tall as a horse when it walked the earth, its feathers glowing like hot coals in a forge. Its eyes shone bright yellow like twin suns, and its talons left scorched footprints wherever it stepped. When it spread its wings, sparks flew from the tips like a shower of stars, and smoke curled from its golden beak. One famous tale tells how a poor farmer caught a young Rarog during a storm and brought it into his home. The farmer treated the spirit with kindness, feeding it only the hottest peppers and giving it a place by the hearth. In return, the Rarog blessed the farmer's house with warmth through the coldest winter anyone could remember, while other homes turned to ice. The Slavic people learned to leave offerings of spicy foods and warm bread near their fireplaces to please these spirits. Families who won a Rarog's favor never felt winter's chill, and their hearths never went cold, but those who forgot their offerings or showed disrespect often woke to find their homes in flames as the vengeful spirit reminded them of its power. Through the skies of Arabia and Persia soared the roc, the largest bird ever to cast its shadow on earth. This giant creature could lift full-grown elephants in its claws as easily as a normal bird catches mice. Sailors both feared and respected the roc because it could sink ships by dropping huge rocks from high above or save lost boats by guiding them to land. Each of the roc's wings stretched longer than 10 large ships placed end to end. Its feathers looked like palm tree trunks, and its beak could crack open the strongest sea turtle shells. When the roc flew overhead, its wingspan blocked out the sun like storm clouds. The bird's eyes glowed yellow, bright enough to light up the night sky. The most famous story tells of a roc that saved a sailor named Sinbad. After his ship broke apart in a storm, Sinbad washed up on an island where he found a huge white dome, which turned out to be a roc's egg. He tied himself to the bird's leg with his turban. When the roc took flight the next morning, it carried him to safety in a valley full of diamonds. People who sailed the seas between Africa and India watched the skies for signs of the mighty bird. Ship captains kept special maps marking places where rocks nested, plotting courses to stay far away from these spots. Yet some brave traders would seek out young rocks, hoping to gather fallen feathers which kings would buy for their weight in gold. These giant birds built their nests on high cliffs facing the sea. They fed their chicks whole sharks and whales, which they dropped from great heights to break open on the rocks below. People believed that rocks mated for life and lived for hundreds of years, teaching their children to guard the same stretches of ocean their parents had watched. Strange cries rang through ancient China's skies as the Shangyang bird warned of coming rain. This magical creature could make storms appear by dancing and singing. People watched for the Shangyang because its actions told them when to plant crops and when to seek shelter from floods. The Shangyang had one leg and feathers that shone like pieces of the sun. Its single foot looked like a dragon's claw, with sharp nails that could tear through clouds. When it hopped, its whole body glowed with the same bright yellow light as summer lightning. Some stories say it had a human face, but its eyes burned red like fire. A famous tale tells of a time when China faced 10 years without rain. The land turned brown and dry, and rivers shrank to thin streams. The great Emperor Yu searched everywhere until he found a Shangyang. He asked the bird to dance, and it hopped on its one leg for 3 days and nights. Heavy rains fell across the whole country, saving the people from dying of thirst. Farmers built small shrines to honor the Shangyang near their fields. They left gifts of rice and sweet fruits, hoping the bird would bring gentle rains for their crops. During dry times, people would stamp one foot on the ground and sing, copying the Shangyang's dance to ask for its help. Many Chinese paintings show the bird dancing in dark clouds, making rain fall on thankful villages below. Parents taught their children to listen for the Shangyang's cry, which sounded like a bell ringing far away. They said this sound meant good luck, because rain would come to help plants grow. Even today, some places in China call sudden summer rainstorms Shangyang rains, keeping the memory of this powerful bird alive. The Simurgh made its home in the mountains of ancient Persia, where it ruled as the greatest of all birds. This mighty creature held the wisdom of ages, knowing every language and the cure for every sickness. People both feared and respected the Simurgh because it could see all things that would happen, from the smallest choice to the grandest battle. The Simurgh stood as tall as 30 men, with feathers that shone in all colors like jewels in sunlight. Its head looked like a dog's, but with a sharp beak made of silver. When it spread its wings, they stretched so wide they could shade a whole city. The tips of its tail feathers glowed like burning gold, and its eyes sparkled with the light of stars. In its most famous story, the Simurgh raised a young hero named Zal after finding him left alone on a mountaintop. The great bird taught Zal everything it knew and gave him 3 of its feathers. When Zal faced hard times later in life, he would burn one feather, and the Simurgh would come to help him. The bird even saved the life of Zal's son during a very hard birth. Persian healers and wise people often prayed to the Simurgh for help with sick patients. They painted its picture on the walls of places where people went to get better. Parents told their children that if they lived good lives, the Simurgh might give them one of its shining feathers, which could cure any pain or sickness. The sight of this mighty bird flying overhead meant hope to those who saw it. Kings and queens built special gardens high in the mountains, hoping the Simurgh would visit and share its wisdom with them. Even today, Persian art shows the Simurgh as a sign of healing and knowledge, watching over those who need help. The sky fox roamed ancient China's mountain peaks, where it guarded the gateway between earth and heaven. This magical creature could fly through storms without getting wet and controlled the weather with its 9 fluffy tails. People both feared and honored the sky fox because it decided which prayers reached the gods and which ones fell back to earth unheard. The sky fox looked like a normal red fox, but it stood as tall as 3 horses stacked on top of each other. Its fur shimmered with all the colors of sunrise, and starlight sparkled in its whiskers. When it ran across the clouds, its 9 tails spread out like a fan made of living fire. One famous tale tells how the sky fox saved China from a great drought. The Jade Emperor had forgotten to send rain to earth for many years. The sky fox heard the people's cries and flew to the heavenly palace. It danced for 9 days and 9 nights, its tails painting the sky with clouds until the rain finally fell. The sky fox shaped how people lived their daily lives in ancient China. Farmers watched for its shape in the clouds to know when to plant their crops. Travelers left small cakes along mountain paths to ask for good weather. Children wore fox charms to stay safe during storms. When travelers see a red fox in the mountains today, they still bow their heads in respect. They remember the old stories of the sky fox and say that every rainbow is really just the shine of its 9 tails crossing the sky. The Stymphalian birds lived in an ancient Greek swamp called Stymphalia. These deadly creatures stood out from normal birds because they had beaks made of bronze and feathers as sharp as metal arrows. People feared them because they could shoot their metal feathers like weapons, and their droppings were full of poison. These birds were as tall as a grown person, like large cranes, with strong, straight beaks that could pierce through metal. Their bodies shone like polished bronze in the sun, and their wings made a terrible clanging sound when they flew. No normal armor could protect against them because their sharp beaks and feathers could cut through iron and bronze like paper. The most famous story about these birds tells of how the hero Hercules fought them as one of his 12 great tasks. When he came to their swamp, he found he could not walk on the soft ground to reach them. The goddess Athena helped him by giving him a special noisemaker that scared the birds into the air. Once they flew up, Hercules shot them down with arrows dipped in poison from another monster he had killed. The Stymphalian birds changed how ancient Greek people thought about safe travel and farming. Before Hercules killed most of them, these birds would attack travelers and destroy crops across the countryside. Farmers could not grow food, and traders avoided the whole area around the swamp. Some of the birds that lived through Hercules' attack flew far away to an island in the Black Sea, where they continued to threaten sailors who passed by. Mighty wings cast dark shadows across the lands of North America as the thunderbird soared through storm clouds. This giant bird commanded the power of thunder and lightning, creating storms with each beat of its wings. Native American tribes both feared and honored the thunderbird as a spirit of great power that brought life-giving rain, but could also destroy with its storms. The thunderbird stood taller than the oldest trees, with feathers darker than night and eyes that glowed like lightning. When it spread its wings, they stretched wider than 4 tall pine trees placed end to end. Its sharp beak shone like polished copper, and its claws sparkled like ice crystals, even on the darkest days. A brave hunter once climbed the highest mountain to find the thunderbird's nest after a long drought had dried his people's lands. The great bird saw the hunter's courage and good heart. Instead of striking him down, the thunderbird flew over the dry valleys, bringing heavy rains that filled the rivers and made the crops grow strong again. People watched the skies for signs of the thunderbird when storm clouds gathered. They carved its image on totem poles and painted it on their homes to ask for protection. Mothers told their children that sudden storms meant the thunderbird was fighting evil spirits to keep their village safe. Hunters left gifts of salmon and deer meat on mountain peaks to thank it for the rains that kept their forests green. The flap of its mighty wings still echoes in the thunder, while lightning shows the path of its flight through the clouds. Each spring, when the storms return to the mountains, people remember the thunderbird's promise to protect the land and its people, just as it did for the brave hunter long ago. Ukshai-Shravas emerged from the churning of the great milk ocean in ancient India. This snow-white horse stood as the first and greatest of all horses, glowing with the power of the sun itself. Kings and gods fought to own this mighty steed, drawn by its power to run faster than the wind and jump higher than mountains. The divine horse rose 7 heads above other steeds, each head adorned with gems that sparkled like stars. Its coat shone pure white, like moonlight on fresh snow, while its mane flowed like silk in the breeze. When it moved, its hooves barely touched the ground, as if it floated between earth and sky. Indra, king of the gods, won Ukshai-Shravas after a great battle that shook the heavens. The horse carried him through storms and across the sky, its speed matching the lightning bolts Indra threw. Together they fought demons and protected the realm of gods, their bond growing stronger with each victory. People believed seeing Ukshai-Shravas brought good luck and wealth. Farmers prayed to the horse for rain, while traders asked for safe journeys. Artists painted its image on temple walls, showing it running through clouds with its 7 heads held high, bringing hope to all who saw it. The horse still races through Hindu stories today, teaching people about the rewards of being pure in heart and noble in spirit. Its hoofprints marked the path between earth and heaven, showing humans they too could reach great heights through good deeds and courage. Ravens in Danish stories changed into dangerous new beings after eating the hearts of fallen warriors on battlefields. These creatures, called Valraven, gained the power to shift between raven and human form at will. People feared these dark messengers because they brought both wisdom and death, never knowing if a Valraven would help them or harm them. The Valraven looked like giant ravens with eyes that glowed red in moonlight. When they took human shape, they kept their black feathered cloaks and sharp beaked masks. Their voices could switch between harsh bird calls and sweet human songs that pulled listeners into deadly traps. One tale tells of a Valraven who found a lost princess in the woods. The creature made a deal with her. It would lead her home if she gave it her heart freely. The princess agreed, thinking the Valraven meant love, but the creature wanted her actual heart. Before it could take it, the princess's pure goodness turned the Valraven back into a normal raven. Danish warriors painted raven wings on their shields to show they did not fear death or its messengers. Mothers warned children to stay away from ravens at night, and travelers left small gifts of meat at crossroads to keep Valraven from following them. People believed that hearing a raven's call at sunset meant a Valraven watched them, weighing their heart's worth. The fierce eagle who guards Yggdrasil, the world tree in Norse mythology, keeps a watchful hawk named Vedrfellnir perched between its eyes. This small but mighty bird serves as a messenger between the 9 worlds, carrying warnings of danger and change. The Vikings believed Vedrfellnir could see through any lie or trick, making it a trusted guardian of truth. Vedrfellnir looks like a common hawk, but shimmers with rainbow colors when it flies through the branches of Yggdrasil. Its feathers shine like metal in sunlight, and its eyes glow with the wisdom of ages. The bird stands no taller than a child's arm, yet its presence commands respect from gods and giants alike. According to Norse tales, Vedrfellnir once spotted the giant snake Nidhogg trying to poison Yggdrasil's roots. The brave hawk flew down through all 9 worlds to warn the eagle, starting a battle that saved the world tree. Without Vedrfellnir's sharp eyes and quick flight, Nidhogg might have killed the tree that holds all worlds together. Vikings often carved Vedrfellnir's image on their ships and homes as a sign of protection against lies and evil. Sailors trusted the hawk to guide them safely through storms, while leaders asked for its wisdom before making big choices. People believed that if they lived honest lives, Vedrfellnir would watch over them just as it watched over Yggdrasil. The wampum bird lived near the Great Lakes in the stories of the Huron-Wyandot people. This massive heron wore armor made of shells instead of feathers, making it both beautiful and strong. People feared its strength but also admired its unique appearance, believing its shell-covered body held special power. Unlike normal herons that have soft gray or blue feathers, the wampum bird's body sparkled with shell armor that looked like pieces of polished pearl. Each shell piece clicked and clattered when the bird moved, sounding like falling rain on water. The bird stood twice as tall as a normal heron, its long neck rising high above the trees. Stories tell how the wampum bird would wade into deep lakes, its shell armor glowing beneath the water. When it caught fish, the shells would part like fingers to let the bird's sharp beak strike, then close again to protect its body. No arrow could pierce its magical armor, and no hunter could catch this sacred creature. The Huron-Wyandot people saw the wampum bird as a symbol of protection and wealth, since wampum shells were valuable treasures used in important ceremonies. They wove its image into belts and told its story to remind people about the connection between nature's beauty and strength. The winged cat soared through ancient Persian skies, carrying messages between the spirit world and earth. This magical creature combined a house cat's keen senses with an eagle's power of flight. People both loved and feared these beings, as they could bring both good fortune and warnings of coming danger. The creature had soft fur like any common cat, but 2 feathered wings spread from its shoulders. These wings matched the cat's fur in color, whether pure white, deep black, or spotted brown. Its eyes glowed with an inner light, especially bright on moonless nights. The winged cat moved with perfect grace, whether stalking mice on the ground or gliding through clouds. One famous tale tells of a winged cat that saved a whole village from disaster. The cat flew ahead of a great dust storm, warning people with its loud cries to take shelter. As others hid safely in their homes, the cat battled the wind until every person found shelter. The storm raged for 3 days, but thanks to the cat's warning, no lives were lost. Persian families kept special plates of milk and honey outside their windows, hoping to attract these sky-dwelling cats to guard their homes. Children watched the evening sky for glimpses of fur and feathers among the stars. Merchants believed that if a winged cat followed their caravan, they would have a safe and profitable journey. The Zeglins stalked the frozen shores of Greenland, rising from icy waters to hunt humans who lived near the coast. This giant sea creature had the power to freeze the ocean around it, trapping boats in thick ice. Local people feared its hunting calls that sounded like breaking icebergs, warning them that the beast searched for prey. Larger than the biggest whale, the Zeglin looked like a mix of seal and bear, with thick white fur that shed ice-like glass. Its eyes glowed blue as deep water, and 2 sets of flippers ended in black claws sharp as frozen peaks. Long tusks of clear ice grew from its jaw, and these tusks gave off an eerie light when the beast hunted at night. Tales tell of a brave hunter named Malik who faced the Zeglin when it attacked his village. The beast had frozen the bay, trapping all the fishing boats in ice. Malik lit many fires around the shore and threw burning spears at the creature. The heat drove the Zeglin back into the deep waters, and it never returned to that bay. Coastal villages changed their ways because of the Zeglin. People built homes farther from shore and always kept fires burning through winter nights. Hunters learned to watch for places where ice formed too quickly on calm seas, and they passed these signs down to their children. When strange lights glowed beneath the ice or odd sounds echoed across the water, everyone knew to seek high ground until the danger passed. The Yangantitan walked the dark roads of Brittany, France, holding 5 burning candles on its fingertips. This spirit lit the way for travelers at night, but its help came with deadly risk. Those who spoke to it or followed its light too long vanished without a trace, making villagers both seek and fear its ghostly glow. The spirit took the form of a tall, thin man dressed in black rags that moved in the wind. Its fingers stretched out like long white candles, each one burning with a blue flame that never went out. Its face stayed hidden in the shadows of a wide-brimmed hat, though some said its eyes glowed like embers in the dark. One famous tale tells of a drunk farmer who met the Yangantitan on his way home from the tavern. The spirit offered to light his path through the woods, but the farmer knew better than to accept. When he refused, the spirit's flames turned blood red with anger. The farmer ran home and lived to warn others about the danger that walked the night roads. The Yangantitan shaped how Bretons lived their daily lives, especially after sunset. Parents taught children to avoid strange lights in the dark and to never thank someone they met on night roads. Travelers learned to carry their own lanterns and walk in groups, knowing that a helping hand in the darkness might be the last thing they ever touched. The Yatagarasu watches over Japan from the sky as a magical 3-legged crow. This sacred bird guided the first Japanese emperors to new lands and showed them where to build their cities. People saw the bird as a messenger from the sun goddess Amaterasu, bringing divine wisdom to earth. Like a raven made from pieces of night sky, the Yatagarasu stands as tall as a person with feathers that shine like polished black metal. 3 strong legs support its body instead of 2, each ending in golden claws that gleam in the sunlight. Its eyes glow red like small flames, seeing truth that humans cannot. Old stories tell how the Yatagarasu led Emperor Jimmu through dangerous mountains when he searched for a place to build his kingdom. The great crow flew ahead of the emperor's army, showing safe paths and warning of enemies with its cry. When the journey ended, the bird guided them to the perfect valley where they built their first capital city. Japanese leaders painted the Yatagarasu on their war flags and shields to bring good luck in battle. Travelers prayed to the 3-legged crow before starting long journeys, hoping it would guide them as it once guided the emperor. Even today, the Japan Football Association uses the Yatagarasu as their symbol, believing it brings victory and wise choices to their teams. Modern Japanese people still point to unusual crows and wonder if they might be the Yatagarasu watching over their cities. They teach their children how the three legs stand for heaven, earth, and people working together to make good choices. Some say that when Japan faces big problems, the Great Crow will return to show the way forward once again. The Ziz soared through ancient skies as one of the three mightiest beasts in Jewish legend. This enormous bird could block out the sun with its wings, casting whole kingdoms into darkness. Sailors watched the heavens in fear, knowing the Ziz could stir up massive waves just by dipping its feet into the ocean. The giant bird stood taller than the highest mountains, its head reaching up to touch the clouds. Its feathers shone with every color of the rainbow, glowing so brightly they lit up the night sky. When the Ziz spread its wings, they stretched from one end of the world to the other. According to ancient stories, the Ziz once saved all the small birds of earth from a flooding sea. It lifted them onto its mighty wings and carried them to safety in the tallest mountains. The smaller birds sang songs of thanks, and from that day on, they treated the Ziz as their protector and king. Jewish teachers used tales of the Ziz to show children the importance of using great power to help others. They told how this mighty bird, despite its awesome strength, chose to be gentle with smaller creatures. Farmers would look to the sky and thank the Ziz for watching over their birds, believing it kept their chickens and doves safe from harm. The rabbis taught that the Ziz still lives today, waiting in a special place beyond the edges of our world. They say that when the time comes for the world to change, the great bird will return to gather all the smaller birds once again, just as it did in ancient days.